After an underwhelming season, the new SYNDRA update is here. She's now much more of a scaling beast and is going to have some pretty eye-watering AP numbers in that late game. So here's a quick guide to that new updated SYNDRA that you can watch even in Champion Select. SYNDRA is a high burst scaling mage with a ton of single target damage, AoE crowd control and pick potential. She does suffer from a lack of mobility, which is slightly offset by her ability to cast most of her spells on the move. She is weaker now in the early game than before, but now has a much better late game with her passive and all those upgraded abilities. Let's take a look at those runes then, and Electrocute is the main one to go for on SYNDRA, adding to your trading power and your burst potential too. Then go for Taste of Blood, Eyeball Collection and Treasure Hunter. After that, grab Mana Flow Band and Transcendence from the Sorcery Tree for less mana issues in lane and of course that juicy ability haste. Max your Q first as this is your main trading ability, then go for your E second and finish off with that W. Luden's Tempest is still the most popular mythic item to go for on SYNDRA, adding to her burst damage and her wave clear too. Although if you are against a really tanky team comp, you could go for a Landry's. So around your mythic you can pick up an early Dark Seal or a Tear of the Goddess if you want to. Tear is going to help you out hugely with mana in matchups where you really need it, and it'll upgrade into an Archangel Staff later, which is still a really solid choice on this champion. If you're feeling confident and the game's looking like an easy one, Dark Seal into Magi's Soul Stealer can put the game to bed early. Shadow Flame is the next priority after your mythic though. Then you want to build for a Death Cap and a Void Staff to round off your damage. If you want some defensive choices, Zhonya's Hourglass and Banshee's Veil can both be great options. And finally, if you do need anti-heal, consider a Morello's. Just don't get this too early though, as it will significantly delay your power spikes and your damage overall. Don't forget you can see all the best builds and runes updated every single day over on our website. As the patch plays out, there'll be a ton of people experimenting with this new SYNDRA update. So click the link in the description and keep yourself informed. So against those easy lanes, SYNDRA is going to thrive in matchups where she can outrange and bully your opponents easily, but more importantly, scale without any risk. You can look to pop your enemy down whilst building up those passive stacks and consider going for the kill once you have your ultimate. SYNDRA struggles though in matchups where she's easily outranged. She also finds it difficult against assassins with reliable gap closers and also some matchups with hard CC. You want to try and sit back, farm under your tower and look for opportunities to influence other lanes instead. SYNDRA can gank pretty effectively with her stun and the damage from her ultimate too, so if the lane is unplayable, try and impact the map instead. SYNDRA does well with champions who can capitalise on her own pick potential, as well as provide a bit of peel and early game presence. SYNDRA does prefer to scale, but she's always able to join in the fun with her stun and her ultimate if the opportunity comes up. During the lane phase, you want to trade with those basic abilities and your auto attacks. You want to balance farming, poking and stacking up your passive throughout this part of the game. The ways to stack your passive are hitting enemy champions with multiple abilities, taking down large minions and just leveling up your spells. It is worth noting that every time you collect splinters from enemy champions, you're going to get mana back. If you find yourself landing a lot of damage in the lane phase, you can also go for kills as well. Your stun is very punishing, so if you think you can land it, go for it. Just be careful not to throw out your stun too often though, as this will leave your enemies a big window to punish you, especially if the enemy jungler is nearby. SYNDRA's ultimate is still a solid early power spike. If you think you've got enough damage to burst your enemy alongside your other abilities, don't be afraid to go for it. This point and click ability can be an easy way to get a lead. When it comes to teamfights, you should have your passive mostly stacked by now and ready to go. And by this point, you're going to be dealing a ton of damage with those upgraded abilities. If you are unsure about that passive, don't worry because we're going to go into that in further detail after this section. So you're going to need to make picks with your stun and catch out any overextended or rotating enemies. If you land this, you and your allies can easily follow up and take your opponents down. You should definitely be looking to use your ultimate and your burst to take down those main enemy carries though. You pack enough damage at this point in the game to one-shot enemy squishies, so if they get too overzealous, pull the trigger. Aside from that, you just generally want to be dishing out as much damage as possible, sticking near your front line for a bit of peel and throwing out that stun trying to hit as many enemies as you can. Don't forget, once you have used your ultimate in a teamfight, the floor will be littered with spheres, which you can now use to hit more enemies with your E stun. This is an amazing way to land a huge amount of AoE crowd control in teamfights. So let's finish off this video by taking a closer look at SYNDRA's new passive. SYNDRA's abilities now get upgraded when she reaches a certain amount of splinters from her passive. At 40 splinters, her Q now periodically stores an extra charge. At 60 splinters, SYNDRA's W now deals bonus true damage. At 80 splinters, SYNDRA's E now has a much wider angle, and it slows enemies hit by 70% after the knockback and stun finishes. At 100 splinters, this is where SYNDRA's ultimate now executes enemies below 15% health. If you can combo this well enough, you can absolutely destroy any type of target. At 120 splinters, which is the max, SYNDRA now gains a total of 15% more ability power, making her deal some pretty insane damage by this point in the game. When partnered up with a few items like Rabadon's Death Cap, it's going to be GG well played. That's going to wrap up our quick guide all about the new SYNDRA. Good luck and have fun.